Episode 2 of Genius shows us that Kanye West was put at the bottom of the pile and left for forgotten, but his brilliance shined so bright that he changed hip hop.
Welcome back to Structure. I'm H. This is E.
What up, what
and
up?
This is our review of Netflix Genius Episode 2. This is the trilogy or the documentary about Kanye West. Before we get started, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let's get into it.
Let's go.
Well, so this episode was good. You know, there's something special about this particular documentary, at least for me. It really connects with me. It brings me back to a time in my life that this particular music was very important to me. This is the creation of the album that I can say is the first album in my lifetime that I could listen from beginning to end. Because normally when you bought an album back in the day, you have 3 or 4 songs that will be like the key song everybody goes to. Every once in a while you find one song here and there. But this album, every single song connected. It talks about different issues that weren't just about shooting up, talking about drugs, talking about real life issues, whether you were struggling at your job, issues with the family, issues with just becoming a better version of yourself. And that's what connected with myself and a lot of people around that time.
And bottom line, this album was amazing, unequivocally, full stop. It changed hip hop, no question. Seeing the behind the scenes, seeing the struggle and the things that he had to go through, and if you were around during that time and you understand what that period in hip hop was, it was hardcore hip hop. It was bling bling that actually came out, and everybody had to be hard, everybody had to be a thug, and all this other stuff. And then you have this guy who really doesn't talk about any of that, right? But somehow he still gains the respect of all these rappers, and not even just respect, but admiration. Like, they love this guy, they want him to do his tracks, and they all say that he can rhyme. Somehow he gains respect and rises in the ranks. Despite all of that, despite what a traditional rapper would seem, despite that profile that we would think that they would have, and he changes hip hop.
Hindsight is always 2020, and we look at it now like this. Kanye West is this icon. He's an icon. This guy is a billionaire. Whether that's in fashion, music, he's done it all. He's very successful at a very high level, every single thing that he does. And watching this documentary, you see how he's ignored by the powers that be at Rockefeller. He's not really taken serious. He's putting on a back burner. And you're like, you go, but he's great. Look at his rap, listening to that. And you have to wonder, it's like, man, is Kanye carrying this chip on his shoulder to this day? Because this is stuff that is not easy to let go.
Absolutely. And in this situation, I think personally, in this type of element, there's only one type of personality. And I think Jay-Z proves it. There's only one type of personality that actually will persevere. And you have to have supreme confidence within yourself. But let's not get it confused, because there's a lot of arrogant people out there, and they're arrogant for no reason. They don't put in the work. Kanye, like he said, was making 3 to 5 beats a day. He knew music. He has been studying music since he was 14 years old, and he also has been rhyming since he was even younger than that. So because he put in the work ethic, and he still wasn't good enough in the beginning, but he was around elite artists like Jay-Z, like Ludacris, and so on and so forth, Cameron and all the rest of them, he quickly picked up and filled up a lot of those holes that he had within his rhyming or whatever, and quickly became an elite rapper. But there's only one personality that's going to be able to persevere in this element, and that is someone who has supreme confidence in himself. And I think, yes, H, that's the reason why he kind of is the way he is today, because back then he couldn't listen to the naysayers, and now that he's hot, really hot, and billionaire, why would you listen to him right now?
Why would you listen to anyone else? That's true. I mean, it's tough, and you look. His story is very inspiring. I listened to this episode. You see the struggle. You see him go to the car accident right when he was seemed to be on track to his for the college dropout to
Yeah,
be created and released. He gets into a car accident as he was traveling to I think it was L.A.
L.A.
to
He was in L.A. He was working for PD Crack. He was doing
PD,
something with PD
yeah,
Crack.
with PD Crack, and he breaks his jaw, gets his mouth wired shut, and through that pain, he writes his what would be his the single that puts him on the map,
Yeah.
which is Through the Wire.
That's right.
And man, like that
He's
song,
so
that moment. Let's talk about that moment on the show.
yeah.
It gives me goosebumps because I love that song. I remember driving down the street, hearing that song, and that hook catches me. And then you listen to the lyrical content on it, and that song was on repeat in my car. It was on repeat, on repeat, on repeat, and just seeing the creation of it and see what this guy had to go through and endure. Yo, it's
That
crazy.
that song was amazing, and when it first came out, I think my introduction to that song was like late night on MTV Jams, watching it. It didn't get the type of attention initially that it commanded, and he had to wait and get the type of publicity that he should have in the beginning. He had to wait for it, and then it became a hit. But the fact that he was sitting in the hospital bed, realizing two things: one, nearly died, my jaw's broken, and the second part is that my rap career is about to slip away. This is it for me. They're gonna write me off. It's over. Just realizing that is what inspired him to be great. He's
Yes.
like, you only get one chance in life, and I'm going to be the best. I'm going to step it up. I'm going to go ham, and forget about my jaw being wired. I'm going to the studio, and I'm going to record a banger right now. Which that was what the first single off of his album.
That was the first single. That's what put him on the map.
Insane.
And you look at how all the other artists reacted around him. Like the scene where Pharrell listens to that song for the first time, and that reaction that Pharrell's get, it makes you feel something. Like you have to watch this. I don't. Kanye is a very polarizing figure nowadays. But
Nowadays.
you look at the Kanye back then. You look at how Pharrell's reacting to his music. It makes you feel some kind of way. This is a guy that comes from literally nothing, a decent family, right?
Yeah.
But he comes from literally from the bottom to make it to that level, being denied essentially because nobody wants to take him serious. At least the people that could put him on.
That's right.
And someone at the level of Pharrell of the Neptunes listens to the music, so shocked that walks out of the studio, comes back in that you're one of my favorite artists. That's a huge call sign for this guy.
Dude, you have Pharrell,
Ludacris.
Ludacris, Scarface, and a whole bunch of other people that are saying your rhymes are hot. Like you are a real artist. You really can rhyme. And he's been, as we're watching this, we realize two things. The craziest part is that before Kanye was even signed, before people even know that knew his name, he was being documented by this guy. He was being followed around
Cootie, yeah.
by Cootie like the entire time, and everybody thought that was normal. I mean, he goes into the studio, Dame Dash, Jay-Z, Scarface. Nobody else has their own documentary except for this no-name guy named Kanye. That's how much of an ego he had back then. It's great, but he knew that he had something, and he knew that he said it in the press conference in the beginning. He said, I think the demographic that I'm going to communicate to is going to be worth $10 million. And that album went 4 times platinum. So I think he beat that.
He demonstrated that he bet on himself. He was right. He had the foresight to see, you know what? I'm going to bet on myself. Let's document this because I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it. I'm undeniable. And everybody's going to see that fairly soon. And he demonstrated that. And just being able to have this footage. And let's talk about that for his first video. They realized, you know what? Let's turn this footage into content for my video.
Right.
I had a pretty cool video when
Which
they had
is-
those pictures and such as the different scenes there. It's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome.
And ahead of its time, because that's what they do for YouTube videos all the time. They take used content, they chop it up, and then they put it on another social media or whatever. So he was already ahead of his time. And the video that he shot, he paid for out of his pocket because he wasn't getting any type of budget.
$33,000,
Any type of budget from Rockefeller. And that video was unlike any other video that was out in hip hop. It is perfect contrast because in the beginning of the episode they show him at a video shoot with Dame Dash, and you got everybody that's in the shot and they're showing their chains, and you got the girl and everything like that. You ain't seen none of that in Kanye's video. All you saw was him talking to different people and them giving their impression of the song, and it just went from one clip to the other clip, and it was just basically showing him
It was
around.
interesting. It was a very interesting video, just the
Yeah,
way it was done. And this is done by Cudi, which eventually ends up doing Jesus Walks for him as well.
he
After he
said it.
tried to
He said it.
establish, after he tried to other established producers or video
Hype
directors.
Williams. Yeah. How did that happen? I don't know, but it was amazing. And shout out to Cootie because Cootie became a videographer and he
Yeah.
has his own production company. Long time, and he's been in the game for a long time. And big things came out of
Long
this
way
for
from
him.
Channel Zero.
Exactly. Big things came out of this for him too. It's just inspirational to see how far behind. Like he didn't start at square one. He started at square -20 because they only kept him around because he could produce beats. If he couldn't
Yeah.
produce beats, nobody would even entertain
It would have been
the
done.
option. Yeah, him rhyming in front of them. But he took advantage of the opportunities that he had. He saw. I love the session with Jay-Z where he produced a song and he said, "Hey, let me get on this track." And he spit a verse for him, and Jay-Z was like, "Yeah, that's pretty decent." But Jay-Z and Guru both helped and added a little this, a little that
Little changes,
to
yeah.
the verse to make it hot. And then you see once Kanye got into the booth, he made he helped Kanye's delivery. He was like, "You need to have more oomph in the beginning because you're starting to get it towards the end." It's just amazing to see that
Tweaks.
development
Yeah.
in real time.
Yeah, because those tweaks is what really makes the difference. Like, because he had the talent, he had the words, he had the whole thing was pretty much set.
Yeah.
JC with that experience of being in the booth and knowing what it takes to make a hit record,
Yeah.
a hit lyric, he goes, just make these changes, very subtle changes. But when someone listens to it, it's that much more impactful, and that's what makes the difference
That's right.
between a
It's
normal artist
electric.
and a megastar.
It's electric. And he every time that he went into the booth, he had his game face on. Every time that he went to the studio, they didn't give him a budget for his album, but yet and still he's still recording. He's borrowing studio time from different people. He's finding different ways to get access to a studio. When he was in Hollywood, he went to Jamie Foxx's house, who has a studio in there, and I guess in exchange for studio time, he put Jamie Foxx on his song, which was crazy because Jamie Foxx really wasn't doing songs. He really wasn't an artist at that time. He was dying to be an artist for the longest time. And here it is. Kanye shows up, gives him this opportunity. And of course, he's going to give him studio time. And they make a masterpiece. They make a classic with slow jams. It's just amazing to
How
see that
great
play
was
out.
that scene? Like, Jamie Foxx, one of my favorite people, right? And just to watch that, how that came together, that song, 'cause I love slow jams, and then later on, Gold Digger.
Oh, my
Like,
gosh.
it's just,
Oh, my gosh.
man, how brilliant is that album? Like, the College Dropout, like, in slow jams, which is not part of the album, but
Yeah.
so created by the same person, and just how brilliant, it's just how special
What
is that
about
album.
what about when he had the chorus record that part
The
for
Jesus
Through the
Walks.
Wire, or was it Jesus Walks? I
Yeah.
thought it was Through the Wire. I think it's Through the Wire, but
Okay.
we'll find out. But they did like 3 or 4 takes, and it wasn't hot. Like he wasn't feeling it. And Kanye, I didn't see it, but Kanye was still sitting there amongst the chorus, and he was like, "Hey, why don't y'all do this, go up and come back down, and then break off into three parts." And that's what we hear on The Wire. That's the chorus that we hear on The Wire, which is
gotcha,
so
yeah.
brilliant. It's just amazing that he was sitting there and he came up with that. When you have the actual chorus director or whatever, he didn't come up with that at all.
Yeah.
These are his people, but Kanye has that vision. Kanye has that perseverance time and time again from all the elite people within the music industry. When they leave a session with him, they are wowed, and it's just this guy is a genius. Not talking about where we're at right now with him. We'll get to that. I understand. I had a conversation. You may have heard me mention it before. That one of my friends is like, "Yo, I'm done with him." I get it. But just living this moment in real time. We grew up with this. If you're my age, we grew up with this. Living this moment and seeing what he had to do for us to hear him on the radio, seeing what he had to do for us to see him on TV, and seeing how he didn't give in to the normal, right? He didn't give in to the hip hop. Like he said, I threw away my jerseys and all that other stuff. He just decided not to be a follower. He decided to be a leader, and it's just amazing to see him persevere in this episode. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, you see that his love with fashion from early beginnings, not just something that he got famous. You know, I want to become a fashion designer, but he's always had a love for fashion. He's like, I want to be the best rapper, best dressed rapper, and you see that as you have mentioned before off camera, people started just changing the way they were styling themselves and dressing.
It's insane. And after all that fighting, after all that waiting, I mean, he wanted to get signed by Ruckus Records, and they wouldn't sign him. He wanted to get signed by Rockefeller. Initially, they didn't sign him. He wanted to be recognized as a rapper. Nobody did that. They called him a producer, and then they called him producer rapper. His name is Kanye. They called him Kane. He he went to the record label office, played the music for him, and
Ignore.
they're like, hey, can you go away? They promised that they would release his album, and then they pushed it back, right? He didn't get invited to certain things. He went to Dame's house to play some music. Dame walked out the room. He went to video shoots, and he didn't get invited into the video shoot. Like, he produced a song, but he didn't get invited to be in the video and all that other stuff.
Let's talk
And
about what Dame said. Like, you know what? I really thought he just wanted to make an album, have a bunch of features.
yeah,
That's what he thought. Like, this is just somebody trying to look for clout. Like, he was clout chasing.
exactly.
But Kanye was looking to make
Kanye was a genuine
something
artist.
from the heart. Yeah.
He was sincere about it, and it's amazing that Kanye still to this day, like, albums is his number one thing, his go to. Like, he has clothing and all that other stuff. Those are his passions, but like, he could have transitioned into acting and stuff like that and all this other stuff. But music is his thing,
Yeah.
and it still is his thing. That's what he loves. It's amazing, and I wonder what his mother was thinking at the time.
She's his number one fan. She was
Yeah.
at the time, yeah.
It's but seeing him get rejected and pushed back and all this other stuff, and she
She was convinced that he was gonna make it no matter. I think you look at this guy, and I'll be honest, there's some people in I mean, I wish we all had something like that in us, that there's some people there's nothing gonna stop them.
and
This guy
he's
is like
definitely one of them.
it's just oh, you're gonna tell me no? I'm just gonna keep at it, keep at it. I'm gonna be annoying, and you had the talent and the confidence behind it to where he's at now.
He's just they say genius, and I think it's that word is used so often that it's lost some of its meaning. But he truly was a genius, and if you had to put it height wise, he was a giant amongst short people. He had an infinite amount of talent, and which we have seen. His body of work is amazing, and it just up until this point, I know there's things with the culture that that he's done wrong, and I agree, but he was his own publicist. He went to MTV, got his video made, and then nobody was going to play it until he did Def Poetry Jam, and I actually watched that when it aired, and I was wowed by him. Like, he changed. He was the artist. He was the star of that particular episode. I had watched a lot of. I think there was a few of them, Def Poetry Jams or whatever. I watched a few of them, but on that one, he was a star, and everybody was talking about it after that. He created his own buzz.
Yeah, he made it happen. He
insane.
brought it into fruition. You know, I'm excited. You know, these first two episodes, they're very inspiring.
Yes.
And this is a trilogy, so you know the next episode we're gonna touch a lot of
all of
topics
it.
that where we're at today, where we see this change overnight, not overnight, but this gradual change from where he's this inspiring figure to being this very polarizing figure that he is today. So I'm excited to see it.
That's what I was going to say, because I think they're going to touch on from the Michael Myers situation, which we're going to get into, and Taylor Swift part, and also some of the more recent things I think they're going to touch on. So I want to see let me ask you, what do you want to see? How do you think they're going to touch on that?
You know, I see that in the next episode, they're probably gonna continue that rise because his first three, four, I would say five albums, classics.
Absolutely.
Everything after his darker album after his mother passed away is not the same to me. I didn't feel the same. So we're gonna see that change. We're gonna see how it starts with this guy is now a mega star, is becoming an icon.
Yeah.
He can do no wrong. And then we see that his ego gets on the way. He's making mistakes. His mother passes away, goes to depression. He's going through
His issues.
his mental issues. He's saying these outlandish things. Maybe his relationship with Kim, his kids, maybe even his divorce. I don't know how far they're gonna take it.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, and I wonder how they're going to judge him in this particular episode. I wonder if the relationship's still there with Cootie and Kanye, and is it going to be skewed? Is it going to be objective? Are they going to show a different perspective to help make it make more sense?
Yeah.
It's dying to see the third episode, and this thus far, both episodes have blown me away watching them and inspired me immensely watching these particular episodes. Shout out to Cootie for being a visionary. Shout out for Kanye for being a genius, and everybody else for getting out their way. I mean, for inspiring them and not standing in their way, and it's amazing. We will be doing episode 3, so
Next
stay
week.
tuned. Until that time,
That's right.
I am E, and this is H, and we are
Unstructured.
That's right.